will help you understand some of the things I talk about a little bit better if you don't get something. Like, yeah, it'll just help.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome to my second page of Kucha on Hello Neighbor. Today I will cover a little bit of everything, including the story, the houses, the mine community, the version of the game, and more.
Grab your mic.
Yeah. First of all, you should know that the neighbor had a family before the game takes place. His family includes Diane, the mother, Theodore, is the neighbor, Aaron, his son, and Mia, his daughter. P.S. His last name is Peterson. However, this is only their names in the books. However, it's much easier to say that than the mother. Yeah, no. In Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek, Aaron and Mia are playing a game of hide and seek while trying to go through the loss of a family member. It has 5 sets, which is what they imagine as they play. This is the official prequel to the main game. Anyway, the main game has 3 acts to it, which means that there are 3 main events that happen. In Act 1 is like a tutorial on how to play the game. In Act 2, you are escaping the neighbor's house because he trapped you in there. And in Act 3, you break in one more time as an adult in a dream. Let me talk about the neighbor's houses. So there are a total of 5 alpha houses, only 1 beta house, which was the alpha 4 house, and 6 unused houses. Fun fact, the Act 1 house is a redesigned version of the alpha 2 house. Another fun fact is that after alpha 4, the house that becomes the Act 3 house never changed except for more rooms and extra space. I'm going to talk about the versions of the game. Let's start with the pre-alpha. The pre-alpha is a free basic gameplay version of Hello Neighbor. It has only 1 accessible floor, and getting in the basement reward nothing to the story, so it has nothing important in it. I also had a big neighbor dream, but that's not important. Alpha 1 had a bigger house, but only had 2 playable floors. This version had the shark, the grave, and the boiler room. These things I just listed make it into the full game. Also, opening the basement door gets you buried alive by the neighbor. It also has a train, which is unrideable. Also, that very part is, yeah. Alpha 2 has a smaller house, but all areas except one room is accessible. This version introduced a power switch on the side of his house, the magnet gun, a generator, and a moving wall. It also introduced a keycard to the game. This is the version where they switch to a new art style. Also, the basement is playable in this one. Alpha 3 has a brand new house, which has 3 accessible floors. However, the other floors can be reached using glitches. This house has a blocked off railroad and new puzzles and hints to the story. The Alpha 4 has an upsized Alpha 3 house and has a lot more areas to access. However, the house is very unfinished and a lot of rooms are blocked off. This version has a working train, the key card is frozen in a block of ice, and this version has what we call sphere rooms. Alright, that's all the alpha, so let's move on to the betas and the final game. Anyway, Beta 1 has the same house as the Alpha 4, but due to an engine upgrade on the game was super buggy and broken. This was the first version where the neighbor could use ladders. This version only added a few room, which was removed 2 versions later. Beta 2 is not much different. The only difference is that they made some things less glitchy. So I'm just going to skip to Beta 3. Beta 3 updated pretty much everything. The performance and stability are optimal, the house is completely accessible, and the basement is actually playable. And this also added a giant neighbor boss fight. And so we get to the final game. The final game includes all the content from Beta 3 and some of the others like the shark, the boiler and the grave, and etc. Alright, we're done with all the versions. So, back in 2015, Dynamic Pixels had a Kickstarter to develop the game. Wait. Okay, oh yeah. One day, game designer Nikita Kolesnikov came up with the idea of Hello Neighbor. The only issue is that they had developed mobile games before, so Hello Neighbor was going to be a challenge to make.
Just restarted it. So you can-
Yeah. I was reading the next slide and
Yeah, it's come.
messed up. Back in 2015, Dynamic Pixels had a Kickstarter to develop the game. The Kickstarter was supposed to reach $100,000, but only made it to $12,000. Fortunately, Tiny Build Games was on their back and it decided to help them with finishing the game. Speaking of development, TinyBuild released the Hello Neighbor mod kit for people to make mods with. It contains all the full game's content, but it does not contain the levels. Otherwise, people would be able to play the game without paying for it. The modding community is big, and there's a lot of mods that people have made. There's a few examples of mods that people have made on screen. Here's something I've been working on. It is a remake of the prototype house and the pre-prototype house that you saw in an earlier slide. I've also made other mods that are either unreleased or unfinished. One more thing, there's a Hello Neighbor prequel book that you can read now called Hello Neighbor Missing Pieces. There's one other book announced called Hello Neighbor Waking Nightmare, but there will be one more after that called Hello Neighbor Buried Secrets in 2019. Thank you for listening to my presentation about all things Hello Neighbor. And remember not to break into your neighbor's basement. Also, this might not be the last time I talk about Hello Neighbor either. Thank you.